And that really, I think, helps to explain what John is saying here when he says Jesus is the Word. Is he's saying Jesus is the underlying order in the entire natural world, the thing that holds everybody together. What order? Okay, so if you study a lot of like sort of creationism arguments and stuff like that, like one of the arguments people will talk about is it's like, imagine you're walking down a beach, you know, and you're picking up seashells as you go, and you come across and you look down, you see a glint, and you come across a fully working pocket watch. And you pick up the watch, you look at it, and you say, wow, it's keeping perfect time, just exactly it. At that moment, the assumption you would not make would be, wow, it's amazing that the waves, just were able to magically, to just perfectly smooth out the metal to create a pocket watch, right? That this just happens. What you would say is, wow, you can see the mind of a creator here. Like, this is a manufactured product, and there is a maker for it, right? You can see an order here, something that has created this thing, something that has knit this thing together. And so we talk about logos, Jesus being the Word. Jesus is that order, that creation that knits everything together. And so in our bodies right now, we are made of muscles and fat and bones, and those things are made of tissues, and those tissues are made of cells, and the cells are made of molecules, those molecules are made of atoms. And in those atoms are electrons buzzing around protons in perfect order. And on all of that is sort of knit together to create a human being. Well, what causes those electrons to perfectly buzz around those protons is the logos. Is that underlying natural order that controls and molds everything together. It is the creative aspect in the entire world. And so when God is saying Jesus is the Word, that's a really profound statement. Because he's saying he is the one who has this creative power and insight. Is literally the one who is holding ourselves together, right? No Jesus, I would instantly go, because there'd be nothing left. Okay, so this is pretty amazing when we get down to what it means for us. Because there's two, I think, really big implications here. And the first is this, is that when Jesus is saying we are a new creation, what he is saying is that we are not a jury-rigged process. We are not something that is just thrown together. So when I was in, I remember when I was in school, maybe even for years afterwards, being a bachelor, if something would break, I would often get something new or have it really fixed. I would sort of jury-rig it together. So I had a backpack that I should have gotten rid of when I was 16, but I kept through age 26. And the solution that I found that works in any problem with it is just more duct tape. If the fabric breaks, you just duct tape it up. If the strap breaks, you just duct tape it. Really, by the end of it, it was far more duct tape than it was backpack. And what Jesus is saying is what he's bringing is not the jury-rigged solution here. Another example. I remember when I was in grad school, money was tight, and so I needed to get a new laptop, and so I sort of scratched together, I was able to get one. And it came and it was a lemon. It was terrible, and so I took it back to the shop, and I was like, hey, you sold me a bad laptop. And they're like, oh, okay, sure. Well, we'll give you a refurbished laptop. And I was like, no, I don't want a refurbished laptop. I want a new one. I want something that is brand new. I don't want second best, something that was broken previously and you had to put back together. I want something that is new. And this is what Jesus is promising to us. Is he's saying that what he is bringing is not second best. That what we have in Christ is not the second best life. That we missed out on what we could have had. He's not saying that I'm coming to make the best of a bad situation. Or to put a smile on what is a bad situation. No, what Jesus is saying is that he has come to give you the best, the most amazing, something completely new. And I think this is so powerful because when we think about, back to the baggage thing, I think we all are carrying some baggage with us, right? Relational brokenness, we've all, I think, messed up relationships in different ways. We've all made bad choices or made mistakes in our career. And I think we've all certainly committed sins that stick with us. I think this is particularly true for any of us, for anyone who's struggling with sins in sort of the sexual area, is that you just feel like it's so easy to feel like that sticks with you, and that's going to affect the rest of your life. And what Christ is saying is no. No matter what you've done, no matter what baggage that you're carrying with you, that he is going to make a new creation that is as good as it ever could have been. You never have to worry that now you have to settle for second best. What an amazing thing. I had an athlete, I worked, when I was a student administrator, I worked with a lot of athletes, and what you get there is injuries is what derails them more than anything else. So many people, they worked as hard as they could, they put everything into it, they did everything they could, but their bodies would just break down on them sometimes, particularly the track athletes I would work with. One athlete in particular was a soccer player, and she basically suffered an injury that it looked like it might end her soccer career. And here she'd been basically doing this for like 15 years as a full-time job, and here it was taken away from her. And, now she's going to have to settle for second best or something like that. And what was amazing is, well, she prayed about it, she stayed faithful, she kept at it, and within a year, her ankle had completely healed. So much so that she'd had chronic problems her whole life, but it actually it healed in such a way that it was better than it had ever been. And she then almost led her team to a national championship in soccer. Amazing story. What an amazing rebound. And that's the kind of thing God's promising. Not that our lives are going to be easy, right? God's not promising it's going to be easy or glamorous. That is not it. But in his way, in his providence, in his design and grace and faithfulness to us, what he's promising us is he's promising us the best. Something more amazing than you could possibly imagine. That we don't have to worry that we have lost out of it because of our past sin. No, Christ says, I've come to make you a new creation. What a beautiful promise. So the next thing I think that he really highlights is he starts to talk about that he is the light. And he says in verse 4, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. I think this highlights when Jesus talks about being the light, I think we see how necessary he is to our very survival. I remember when I was working once again with a student who was trying to get into college, and so was working constantly. Right, so much so that it was eclipsing all involvement in church or any sort of spiritual life. And I was like, man, you gotta get your priorities right. And so I was like, hey, look, you need God. So I'm like, hey, look, it's like food, right? No matter how busy you are, you have to eat, right? And the guy's like, well, I don't know, I haven't eaten 2 days, I'm just so busy, I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I'm like, okay, you have to sleep, right? No matter how much you're working, you need to sleep. And he's like, well, actually, I pulled about 3 straight all-nighters in a row. I'm getting a little blurry vision everywhere I go. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, you have to use the bathroom. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, fine. Well, thanks for giving me that. I'm like, light is unbelievably essential to us. When you think, I love when you reading astronomers where they're talking increasingly about the idea that there's extraterrestrial life may be probably unlikely because of how hard it is for a planet to sustain life in the universe. And you have to be perfectly, as you're orbiting a sun, you have to be perfectly in the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just the right amount of light. Because light in particular is the thing that drives life. Without it, this world would be a dark, deathly place very quickly. One scientist said that if the sun stops shining down on us, within the surface temperature of the Earth would instantly go to 0 degrees. And within a year, it would be negative 100 degrees. So if you think this winter's bad, just imagine that. And then shortly thereafter, basically the world would be frozen. But luckily, the surface of the ocean would freeze and would insulate what below that. And so if we wanted to, we could live in submarines underneath the ocean for a while. So that's a really bad sci-fi movie right there if you want to write a script, But here's the point: is light is completely necessary to our life. Without it, we are lost. It is essential. And what a beautiful thing to talk about Jesus as. Hebrews 1:3 says, Jesus is the radiance of God. What a beautiful image, that his goodness, his grace literally, physically radiates out of Jesus. There's a story in the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. You guys have read that? There's the story. It's a kid's story, and so like there's an evil white witch, and when she doesn't like one of the little animal members of her kingdom, she puts her wand down and turns them to stone, which is fine. So at the end of the movie, Aslan, the Jesus character, he comes to free those people. And what's really beautiful about this image is the way he frees them is he comes up to them and he breathes on the creatures. He breathes on them, that closeness, that intimacy, that radiating power, and of course the creatures come back to life. And I think this is the image of Jesus' character. And what it means that he is the one creating the new creation is that he is literally radiating life, new life off of them. I think maybe my single favorite story in the Bible is in Luke 8. And where Jesus is teaching a crowd, and so it says like the crowd is all coming around him from all over, and there's a woman who's been sick for years. Like I said, I think 12 years she's been struggling with the sickness. And what happens is she comes up, and her solution to this problem is just be like, Jesus, and just grabs it, and then she's instantly healed because of that. And what I love the story is Jesus like sort of like plays coy. He's like, who touched me? You know, I feel the power went out of me. You know, clearly Jesus is God, so he knows who touched him. But what the sense you get of it is that Jesus is just so filled with this radiating light that it's just shooting out of him, you know? And then that woman, you know, she understood Christian theology. Because what is her theology? I'm going to get close to Jesus and I'm going to grab a hold of him. You know? And man, did she understand stuff that a lot of theologians have missed in that moment. And what a beautiful image of what God is calling to us, that we would draw close to him, that we would draw near to him, that we would live in constant prayer and reflection of his presence with us. Because that presence is like a light warming us, sustaining our life, renewing us, transforming us. It says in verse 5, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. What a beautiful statement. Because like, I think a lot of us live in concern sometimes about like, the state of the world. You know, particularly, I've heard a lot of people make comments about sort of threats to Christianity, right? From cultural forces or academic forces or political forces. And so I think there's a fear of the darkness coming and sort of attacking Christianity in different ways. And what we see here is this beautiful encouragement that says, no matter what the darkness is, it cannot overcome the light. I mean, this is specifically speaking about people actually killing Jesus. And of course, God uses that for good in an unbelievable way. But what we have this promise of is that no matter what threat we face, be it sort of the big society level ones, or maybe just the more personal ones, in difficult relationships with people who are cruel to us or mean to us or whatever, is that the darkness can't overcome the light. Why? Because the power of God's word and truth, that his gospel message, that Jesus is the King and Savior, and not even the cross and the tomb can keep him down, is the promise that he can overcome any darkness. That his light that he has promised, that his light is literally radiating into us. There is nothing that can eclipse that. There is nothing that can overcome that. If Jesus could overcome his own death, there is no circumstance in our life that could truly keep us from that light. And what we need to do is we need to just draw closer to Christ. Because he is, that's just his nature, is to just pour out his light. It radiates off of him. The last bit I want to talk about is sort of going on to verse 9. It says, the true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his people did not receive him. First off, the translation isn't great. When it says the true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world, that's not really quite the right thing. It should say more like sheds light upon, or the light exposes everyone. Is more what the word means. And what it means is this, is Jesus and his encounters with people, it sort of shows what's underneath. What do I mean by this? Well, the Special Forces, if you want to be a Navy SEAL, which is pretty hard apparently to be, I don't know firsthand experience, but I've read. It's something like 30 months of training that only 6% of people pass. And for instance, one of the things they do is they have a very, very difficult week in which they have to do 5 days and 5 nights of constant working out with only, in total, 4 hours of sleep over that period. And the goal is that, and I've asked people about that, is that really necessary? You know, and what my friends who have been through, they haven't been through that training, but through similar trainings, they said, that's what reveals people's character. That there's a category of people who will just keep going no matter what. Like they will literally drop dead before they stop, you know, fighting ahead. And the only way to see that is just to put people under such extreme pressure. And then it will reveal their character. But Jesus doesn't operate quite like that, thankfully for us. But there's a way in which his presence is revealing. You know, most obviously with the Pharisees, right? Where here's a group of people who are sort of held up as the virtuous, noble people in society. But when they come in contact with Jesus, you see that, oh no, maybe their hearts aren't really quite where we thought they were, right? They claim to be righteous, but then when they encounter God himself, suddenly they're hostile to him, aggressive towards him. Something is at work there. And what I think we see is that the light of Christ reveals stuff in all of us. That when we encounter God's holiness and his goodness, you know, we are, for better, exposed. Our sin is exposed because there's nothing that highlights our inadequacies so much as the righteousness and perfection and holiness of God, especially as shown through his Son, Jesus Christ. And I think our response to this needs to be in every way not to rationalize or minimize sin. Right? That's certainly my approach. I'm a millennial, so I never like to admit I'm wrong. You know, so you just say, oh no, that wasn't such a big deal, or, you know, or better yet, I don't know about you guys, but I'll always tend to just assume I'll do better next time, you know? Oh, I know I messed up last time, but next time I'll do better, you know? Like me and goldfish, you know, every time I have goldfish around, I just eat them all. And I don't know why I keep buying them, because I'm like, oh, I'll eat just a few now. But no, the answer is I'm going to eat all of them every time I get it. You know, they said the definition of insanity is having the same situation and then expecting different results. Well, I violate that all the time. And the reason is I'm minimizing sin. I don't realize I'm as bad as I am. What I need to do is accept the fact that the light that Christ shines on me, the way the way his word, his law reveals my character, I need to agree with that. I need to say, yes, I'm a sinner. I need to say, yes, I'm in need of a Savior, because what Christ offers is so good. What does he offer? He says, verse 12, but to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Born of God, not of blood, nor of the will, nor of the will of man. Nothing we can do can contribute. We are the product of God's new creation that he is working. Christ is the one who can do it. He is literally the one who has the power of creation in his hands. And what is he using that? He's using that to make all things new. That the life we have promised, that he has promised us in him, is a better life than we can imagine. But we can leave that baggage behind because he has given us something completely different, completely reconstructed. Not a refurbished product, not a duct taped together salvation, right? It is the full, beautiful, radiating power of Christ that we get to be face to face with. That it like those statues, we are made new, that we are made alive in a new way. Let us believe that. Let us draw close to Christ. This week, let his presence be near to you in your mind and heart, that we would experience that life-changing, illuminating, like stone to flesh kind of transformation, which is what he wants for us as his beloved children. Let's go before him in prayer. God, you are good. Your salvation is better than we deserve. It's so good it is shocking. And we thank you for that. We thank you, though, that we can spend our entire lives reading your word, digging deeper, and discovering more and more and more. Because while your gospel is simple, it is so deep and profound in the way that it transforms us, in the way that it reveals your character, and the way in which, Lord, we come to experience your life-changing light and life of your new creation. Lord, we pray to all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, who saved us. Amen.